Hi, I'm Tasia, and this is our second video in our series about spiritual awakening. In this video, we'll look at how we awaken and how much control we have over our awakening. Our first video laid the foundation for what spiritual awakening is and is not. Awakening is not an experience. It's what we already are. All blissful experiences we might have, like having our kundalini rise or seeing celestial visions, are not awakening. Those things can arise as tempting byproducts of spiritual life, and craving or clinging to those diversions as experiences that can be had by a separate you places them firmly in the realm of ego mind, and therefore have absolutely nothing to do with awakening or enlightenment. Extraordinary as these experiences may be, in the end they're just more experiences that you think you are having as a separate entity, like experiencing your favorite meal or great sex. Ultimately, we must ask, do we want to be collectors of experiences, or do we want to awaken? Nor does the dawning of awakening means all of your body-mind problems immediately disappear. If you were ill, awakening doesn't make the illness immediately go away. If you were having relational difficulties, awakening doesn't suddenly make all of your relationships work out. If you had a brash, stern personality, awakening doesn't immediately transform you into a kind-hearted, soft-spoken person. These are all aspects of the body-mind, while awakening is who we are, beyond our individual bodies and personalities. Awake, we directly experience that we are the pure awareness behind all these facets, containing and witnessing all of these human expressions dispassionately. So if we are truly interested in awakening, we're not looking for cosmic experiences or an end to our problems. We're looking to go beyond our false identification with a body, mind, and ego that wants any of these things to change or improve, and dwell in our natural awareness that remains forever, long after these other aspects have dropped away. Spiritual awakening is so simple, so exquisitely simple. It simply means we are directly experiencing what we really are, abiding in it, pure awareness. That's it. Awareness is all there is, all there ever was. So we are that. Awareness is reflecting itself in this material universe that has seemingly arisen. Every planet, rock, tree, animal, and human. And part of awareness playing out this reflection game, this living dream, is that we humans are sentient and think we are separate entities. We're not, but we think we are. That's part of awareness's game. Identifying yourself as a separate entity is fine. Becoming aware that you're not is fine. And having that false illusion of separateness fall away permanently, returning you to your natural awareness that you are and always have been the one reality, is awakening. It's really that simple. And if you keep it that simple, it feels so freeing and immediately enlightening. The mind tends to complicate it, like we're going to have to understand everything and go through all these gyrations and progressive spiritual levels to get there. But there is no there to get to. We already are that. So now people, these reflections of awareness, want to know how they can realize their true nature, drop their false sense of separateness, and reestablish themselves in pure awareness. We all want to know, how do we awaken? Naturally, this brings up the whole question of what we can do to awaken, what method or practices, and how much volition we have on this path. The simple answer to the question of how much volition you have in your awakening is none. You have none. Volition would imply that we are separate, striving entities, and that there's something that these supposedly separate entities can do to awaken to our true nature. But since pure awareness is all there is, and there aren't really any separate beings who, by their own volition, could awaken to what? How could an illusory being work towards having the realization that it's an illusion and that there's nothing to work towards? What choices or practices could be made by an illusory being to accelerate that which already is? It's like Pinocchio asking to become a real boy. Awareness is already fully complete and awakened, and that's what we already are, experiencing and delighting ourself through these human circuitries. An awake woman named Suzanne Siegel wrote a very clear treatment about human volition on the awakening path in her book, Collision with the Infinite. Her explanation is so laser sharp and clear that I'd like to simply paraphrase her words here. She said, "Most practices imply the existence of a me who can do the practice and eventually accomplish a particular goal. But if the practice is undertaken by such a me in order to attain the non-locatable vastness of no personal self, a paradox presents itself. A personal doer is presumed to exist who must do the practices properly in order to achieve the realization that there is no personal doer." This reference to a personal doer runs totally counter to how the infinite exists. Ever since awakening, it's been clear that there never is, nor has there ever been, a personal doer anywhere. Prescribed techniques and lifestyles that insinuated an I who must do in order for awakening to occur presuppose a cause and effect relationship that simply does not exist. How can a personal I who doesn't exist be the one who must do something in order for awakening to occur? Further, most spiritual practices presume that awakening is not already with us and must be reached or attained. But we are always the vastness. Always. It's the naturally occurring human state, as well as the natural state of every rock, tree, bird, insect, and animal. Where would the vastness go? Where could the infinite hide? What could we possibly need to do to become the vastness that we already are. Many techniques also suggest that something must be eliminated, stopped, or purified in order for us to become what we really are. But the vastness is everything at all times. Nothing exists outside of it, and nothing needs to be excluded from it. After all, we're talking about the infinite here. In particular, there are spiritual traditions that imply that the mind must be stopped for awareness to be realized. The assumption is that the relative activity of mind correlates with awakening. Of course, if a practice is undertaken to quiet or stop the mind, the result may be a quiet mind, but the infinite is not perceived through or grasped by the mind. The infinite realizes itself. Certainly for me, awakening did not occur because the mind stopped. No psychological or spiritual technique was involved, nor was there any locatable or apparent cause. Rather, the vastness showed itself in a mysterious manner. I was simply standing at a bus stop. How then can it be argued that some particular method or technique is required for awakening to occur? Remember, many people have had spontaneous full awakenings without having ever done any meditation or spiritual practices. The fact that some have experienced awakening while doing rigorous practices or steadfast meditation has, for many, created the illusion of a cause and effect relationship, when in fact, awareness simply chose to awaken through those individuals while they were practicing, and manifested in others while they were not, while they weren't engaged in spiritual seeking or practices. Awareness awakens through us when it chooses to, not because of any of our seemingly separate choices and activities. She continues, since I followed no prescribed techniques to realize the absence of the personal self, I cannot now encourage the practice of them. Strict practices may encourage the creation of more ideas about the awakened state and what it looks like as the mind attempts to figure out or approximate it. But how can the mind approximate what it cannot grasp? The vastness is unimaginable. Although it is always present, the mind cannot recognize it because the infinite is not perceived through the mind. The infinite perceives itself. I want to break away for a moment here just to call your attention to the immensely enlightening understanding conveyed by that last point. So often people ask, well, if the infinite or pure awareness is always present with me, in fact is me, how come I don't feel that? Because you are perceiving everything through your mind, as you have been conditioned to do. And the human mind simply cannot recognize the infinite. It doesn't have the capacity. That doesn't mean the infinite is not there with you, just that you're looking through the wrong lens. She continues, in no way, however, am I suggesting that practices should not be done, only that there is no practitioner who is the doer behind them. This is true of every activity. There's no walker, but walking occurs. No driver, but driving occurs. No thinker, but thinking occurs. Just because there is no practitioner, and never has been, does not mean that practices will not take place. If it is obvious for a particular spiritual practice to occur, then it will. If it's obvious to meditate, chant, journey, circumambulate, travel, set up an altar, eat certain foods, perform certain acts, or visit certain teachers, these will be done as things have always been done, by the mysterious, non-locatable doer behind everything. To base such practices on the idea that if they aren't done, you won't realize the pure awareness you already are, and will therefore be a spiritual failure, is to found your life on the successful functioning of some non-existent me. This illusion that we are the doer, that our supposedly separate ego minds have control and must strive and effort to attain spiritual union, or even to attain worldly goals like wealth and security, is our biggest illusion, and the single biggest cause of all our suffering and pain. We are given so many indications across our life that we are not the doer, but rather that there's a natural unfolding taking place here, over which we have never had any control. We had no control over being born, or when we were born, or to whom we were born, or what traits and sensitivities that family might impart to us that would shape our entire lives. We've had no control over our heart beating, our body's growth, or what health challenges we might face. We certainly have no control over when we'll die. Even choices that we think we carefully made, which friends, which partner, our livelihoods, all have been influenced by so many prior events and movements of mystery that we must acknowledge the great force moving our lives and not delude ourselves that we ever made independent choices. That natural unfolding is the desire and delight of spirit or awareness experiencing itself through our human circuitry. We never have been the doer. Awareness is the doer, not our brief human lives. In reality, we are that awareness, and our fleeting human experiences and existences are just an illusory reflection of the doer behind all that we are. So then the question comes up, well, if we have no personal volition over this, how do I work this thing called life? Do we do nothing? Or do we do everything without giving a damn because it's all going to turn out the way it does anyway? How then shall we move forward to influence our life and our spiritual enlightenment? Since it's awareness that's doing everything, not our egos, we don't have to control it. We can simply play and choose all of these things intuitively. We always know what's next. All we have to do is listen within, and we'll know intuitively, this is the next thing to do. This is the next most obvious thing that awareness deems should unfold in this next moment, and the next, and the next. To the question, should we just do nothing? I would say, try doing that. Try doing absolutely nothing. You won't last a minute. You will feel compelled, moved intuitively to do something. That voice, that impetus is awareness calling for its next discovery, its next experience through our human circuitry. See, it wasn't that hard to find the true doer after all. Try to deny it and do something other than what you're doing. You can't, because you're always doing exactly what you're doing. Just do everything that you were doing before, but do it as the play of awareness. Don't take it so seriously or be so concerned if everything doesn't work out the way that you wanted it to, including your spiritual awakening. The you that wants it to work out a certain way is just an illusion. Allow things to happen however they happen, and just trust that awareness knows how to run a universe. Play the game of life with passion and spirit, like good friends who split themselves into two opposing teams to play soccer. Temporarily, they treat each other like opponents. They play hard, reveling when things are going their way and their team scores goals, and anguishing when the other team moves ahead and beats them. They play and experience everything with full identification. I'm on this team. I'm going to do everything in my power to beat you and your team. I might even play rough. They play with passion and vigor and commitment. After the game, they wrap their arms around each other and go off together to a restaurant or to have a drink together. Good buddies again. They drop all their illusory divisions and feel the love again. That's how we play life that is actually being played by awareness. Allow awareness to unfold your life. Play it with vigor, with passion. Believe in what you believe in. Identify with what your body-mind believes. Even believing your judgments aren't just your opinions, but that you're actually right. And work to make the changes and progress in your life and in the world that you believe are so important. But at the end of the day, don't take it too seriously. Realize that it's just awareness unfolding the way it wants to, and that everything is perfect just the way it is. Now, if you are pure awareness unfolding without any judgment about what's right or wrong, good or bad, painful or pleasure, and if pure awareness is the only thing in this universe, you've got nothing to lose or fear if things don't go your ego's way. Even if by not going that way, it means that it's time for you to pass away from this planet. Allow everything to be as it is and to unfold as it does, since that's the way it's going to anyway, which of course means it's perfect. In the awake awareness, we not only don't have any volition, but we don't need it. The concern over whether we can control things stems only from the body-mind-ego's fear that if we don't, we'll fail to achieve something that we were supposed to achieve in life, or we'll die, or both. But your body-mind-egos never had control, and who we really are can never die. Time to realize that and awaken to our vast true self that has always been the doer. Prior to abiding in full awakening, we can remind ourselves of this wisdom that we have no control and use it like a technique to remind us to let go. In full awakening, the experience of you ever having control recedes way into the background, replaced by an effortless letting go into whatever is at the moment. And that awakening happens for all of us, not because we control it to come by certain practices or within a certain time, but because it's already happened, already what is. In truth, there is no time, and we are already fully awake. Once again, please come visit us at our website for more information and our calendar of classes and retreats and for private sessions. Our website is toawaken.org.